share. Put a little love in your heart.
American Public Media.
The Broward County Mentor Protege Program is seeking mentors, resident experts, and community partners in various industries to work with local small businesses. Applications are being accepted through January 5th. Learn more at broward.org/ECONDEV.
Monday morning at 9, it's an encore Sunshine Economy on Christmas. We look at the disappearance of teenagers from the job market. A decade ago, about half of teens in Florida were interested in working. Today, it's down to a third. I'm Tom Hudson. Join us Monday morning at 9 for the Sunshine Economy. The program is made possible by Kaufman Rawson.
This is 91.3 WLRN and HD1 Miami Fort Lauderdale, 91.5 WKWM and HD1 Marathon Key West, 90.7 WFLV HD2 West Palm Beach, and 101.9 NPR for the Palm Beaches. It's 2 o'clock. Stay tuned for folk and acoustic music. Good afternoon and welcome to Folk and Acoustic Music. My name is Michael Stock, here every Sunday on 91.3 WLRN. Today is Christmas Eve, so I'll be playing some Christmas music. Opening up the program today, new music from Ryan Hood, one of the instrumentals on his new CD called On Christmas. We listened to the tune On Skating. I'll be playing a lot of new and old, familiar and unfamiliar with Christmas tunes. And also in the studio will be Kuyayky. They're a family band that's been in South Florida for many years, keeping the Peruvian and Andean music alive. And they're here in the studio along with the Kuyayky Children's Orchestra, or members of the orchestra. We'll find out more about that, as well as hear some music from Kuyayky. But first, here's a set of music, recorded music, starting off with Pierce Pettis.
No banners were unfurled when God stepped into the world, held in the arms of a little girl named Miriam. fiancé, your family. The teenage pregnancy of Miriam. But laws of nature were suspended. Death sentences rescinded throughout all the world, all because of a little girl named Miriam. Medieval paintings glaring down.
Mary had a baby, my Lord. Mary had a baby, my Lord. Mary had a baby, my Lord. Mary had a baby. Mary had a baby, my Lord.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come.
That's a brand new version of an old song, Joy to the World. Rachel Sage. Rachel's new CD is called Joy. Before that, we listened to Amy Carol Webb, a South Florida singer-songwriter. Her CD is called Songs for the Season. We heard the traditional Mary Had a Baby. And opening up that set was the original Miriam from Pierce Pettis, a collection of music for the winter season called A Winter's Eve from Pierce Pettis. I want to wish get well to Bobby Ingram. He recently had heart surgery, and I wanted to play a song from his latest CD. Here's Bob Ingram.
If you could see me now, the one who said that he would rather roam, if you could hear me now, singing somewhere in the lonely night.
When chimney smoke hangs still and low across.
My name is Francis Tolliver. I come from Liverpool. 2 years ago the war was waiting for me. Of the rifle, we're the same.
John McCutcheon, Christmas in the Trenches, a song he wrote many years ago about the true story of a Christmas truce during World War II. That is from a collection of John McCutcheon's Water from Another Time CD, a retrospective of some of John McCutcheon's music. Before that, we listened to Ronnie Arbo and Daisy Mayhem from their CD Winter Song. Hot Buttered Rum, famous song about Christmas written by Tommy Thomas of the Red Clay Ramblers. And opening up that set was South Florida's own Bob Ingram, Loving Arms, from his latest CD called Postcards from Coconut Grove. Get better, Bobby. This is Folk and Acoustic Music. My name is Michael Stock, in the studio now with Kuyayky and the Kuyayky Children's Orchestra. And welcome, everybody. It's a big crowd in here. I'd like to mention real quickly before we start that we are on Facebook Live. If you go to the WLRN Facebook page, or WLRN Radio and Television Facebook page, and you'll see us all here in the studio. It's quite a crowd. And Candy.
Yes.
You're going to be talking for the family. Now, your family has been playing this kind of music since you were a child.
Yeah, since I was a child. Since I was 1, 2, 3. I probably joined when I was about 3, like seriously.
3? Yeah. You didn't have to audition. Your dad just threw you an instrument and said, "Here you go."
Yeah, he doesn't like auditions. He believes that we all basically do have an innate talent, and it's just about honing it and developing it. So
what kind of music does the family band play?
Yes, well, we play family songs. We come from a family of singers and artists and painters and writers, and so the music that we play oftentimes is music that my uncle wrote, that my grandfather wrote, that my parents wrote. And through migration, through coming here, we've incorporated also a lot of all the influences that we hear here in South Florida from all over. So I think we take a little bit of everything and make our own, but definitely it's a family tradition.
I didn't know your father and grandfather wrote music.
They do. They do. Some of them would write lyrics, and some of them would write the music themselves. Some of them would write both. But definitely a long tradition of that. Yes.
Would you call that folk music?
Yes, definitely folk music, and folk music that is specific to our hometown. So a dying form in many instances.
Why is it dying?
Because Andean music also has a pop Andean music, because they realized they could market that music very well. So once they started recording it in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, they basically fastened it up for the broader market, and it became faster and faster as time. If you hear it now, it's incredibly fast, and it's lost a lot of its uniqueness. It would be very different from town to town, and nowadays, because it's popular, we only hear like one region's Andean folk music as the standard, basically.
Were there any Andean pop stars?
Oh, yes, very much so. From that time on, they actually, it was because of racism and colonialism and that whole history. It was we weren't allowed to play Andean music basically on a public as a public performance all the way until the 40s. But once they realized how commercial the market value of this music in a country that is mostly indigenous and mixed, they just couldn't hold it back. So most of our artists, our best-selling, you could say, recording artists in Peru are folk musicians.
I wouldn't recognize any name, though.
Probably not here, except for maybe Ima Sumac. She came from the standard, as a pop folk artist in Peru. Mm-hmm.
So how far can you trace your family heritage?
We can trace it. We come already from an old family. Like we kind of skipped a generation because they used to have so many children also back then. So I can easily, just through my grandparents, go back to the late 1800s. Just through my grandparents.
Why did was it your father who immigrated to America?
Yes, he immigrated with all of us. We are one of those rare cases where 7, the whole nucleus, the whole entire family came together. And we came with our instruments. That's all we came with.
Why did you come here?
We came here escaping political persecution in Peru. We had an authoritarian government that came into power. He closed Congress, and we had to flee. We also had terrorism back then. So we had a lot to escape from all sides, yes.
I'm speaking with Ruby from Candy from Kuyayky. Well, I don't have the whole family. Who from your family do you have here with you now?
We have everybody but Ruby, but it's perfectly okay. My dad calls me Ruby half the time too. So Michael, I feel right at home. Not to worry. And we look alike also quite a bit. So sometimes Yina would say when she would be chatting on the computer, she thought it was her and it would be me sitting in front of the computer. So we also have that. But there's Yina's right here. She plays the charango. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
From my family, my mother, who's kind of refusing to sing, but she's one of those keepers of this tradition that hopefully we can hear next, of these tristes or yarabis and mulisas that are local to our town, because there's different versions of mulisas, but she's one of the few surviving keepers of this tradition. So we're making her sing for Christmas.
Does she normally sing? Is she?
Yes, she used to. She's actually our Huli Records, which was recently acquired by the Smithsonian Folk series. They have they put together a record from the 1950s and 1960s recordings, and in one of those, when we just arrived here the second year or so, we found my mom and her sister, and it said anonymous.
Oh no!
So we wrote to them and we told them, it's my mom and her sisters, and they were recording all the way back then.
They must have been thrilled that you identified those
yes,
people.
they really were. They gave us a good response, and then when we found out they were acquired by the Smithsonian, we were just taken aback.
That music is going to last forever now.
Yes, and I have also, even when we were children, my parents always made us perform, and I feel like now I make my parents perform more often than not.
And so you have your mom here?
Yes, my
Eunice
mom
here?
also here, who's a little bit shy today. Jose, my brother.
How you guys doing?
Hi, Jose. Good seeing you again. And you have an acoustic guitar with you.
Yes, indeed.
You were playing electric for a little while, or were you?
Maybe, but not. Mostly, it's acoustic.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then Mary Luz, who's also been.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Mary Luz. What instrument are you playing?
I play the woodwinds, mostly the quena, which is the most common flute in the Andes, which is an upright, very simple.
Is that an instrument that you chose to play?
I guess so. I'm the only one who actually chose the instrument. Most of them, they were kind of forced and
No,
signed.
Candy, is that right?
That is right. I think maybe Jose will remember best, but he always says that we weren't a rich family. We're a family of artists, but incredibly creative people. So my parents, instead of buying, I don't know, like a washing machine, they would buy a guitar or they would buy a mandolin.
Yeah, when we made it to this country, we had an old car, but we had a $5,000 or keyboard. Yeah. So you can see the
priorities. Yes. So as they bought the instruments and as we were being born, they assigned them to us, and we ended up playing what we play that way. Yeah.
Kuyayky is here. Well, what do you have planned for us today? Because I haven't even talked about the orchestra that you put together.
Right. So what we have the orchestra members here. Now I've renamed the ones here in Miami. Now I call them the Kuyayky Chamber Youth Ensemble because they've grown. They can attest to it. They were all shorter than me at one point. I'm fairly short. I'm 4'10".
Yeah, in fact, the picture that we took last time, he looks like a baby.
Right.
Yes, the last time we were here. So now since they've grown, I've renamed the group here in Miami. But we also took them to Peru when we started the Kuyayky Children's Orchestra in Jauja, in our hometown, so deep in the Andes Mountains, and we had this cultural exchange. They went to play. It was a kind of like a music dance-off kind of thing with the kids over there, and it was just incredible. I think they can all speak to that.
Yeah, and the next song we're gonna play, it's a song that we started composing like about a year ago. We finally forced ourselves, Yina especially, the one that plays the charango, and so it's a very special song to us because it's based on the life story of a lady we met when we were children, and Yina, maybe you can tell her like a little bit.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, this is a song in the rhythm of a tondero. A tondero is the rhythm of the northern coast of Peru. Most of this music, it's not really played in the central Andes, but we learned to love it when we came here and we played with the rest of Peruvian musicians. And so this is a tondero, and it's about this lady who escaped abuse from her husband. She had 4 kids, and they arrived with nothing, almost naked, to our city. And since she's from the coast, we decided to make the song a tondero, and it's in her memory because she didn't have an easy life.
She faced also like the climate; it's way colder, so she had to put up with that on top of poverty and and
Yeah,
it's a sad
Has she
story.
heard this song?
She actually, we believe she committed suicide.
Oh.
She fled the northern coast, which is poor, and she came to our town, which is also very poor. So she went from the coast where it's hot, like a tropical area, to the Andes themselves. But she was fleeing violence, like Ina said, from her husband. So it's a tribute to all of those women, suffering under domestic violence, and a tribute to her, the strength of her to also flee such a situation, and the unfortunate end as well.
Okay, here's Kuyayky.
Llegas del norte, Cholita, cargando penas al hombro. Aquel que te quería cambió sus besos por puños. Aquel que te quería cambió sus besos por puños. Vienes buscando, Cholita, aquí en la sierra tu norte, y aun con las alas rotas alzaste el vuelo y huiste, cargando con tus guaguas hasta este frío llegaste. Pero aquí también había hambre que hirió de muerte tu alma, y aunque sin descanso luchaste, poco a poco te quebraste, y aunque sin descanso luchaste, Micaela, te quebraste. aunque sin descanso luchaste, poco a poco te quebraste, y aunque sin descanso luchaste, Micaela te quebraste, y aunque sin descanso luchaste, poco a poco te quebraste, y aunque sin descanso luchaste, Micaela te quebraste, y hacia el olvido bailaste. Sin pañuelo, guitarra, ni cajón.
Live in the WLRN studio, Kuyayky and the Kuyayky Youth Orchestra. Well, that was gorgeous. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Thank you
who
much.
orchestrates? Who's behind that all?
Well, here actually Jose, he's our musical director, and in Peru, my dad, he has. We have about 91 children altogether in Peru, and about 40 of them are a performing group. And it's a lot about our task is also that to write down, because we were an oral culture, the Incas were an oral culture, and everybody always is marveled by that, how we made so much by being an oral culture. So it's about also writing down a lot of what we know, and so we can leave it behind, and then teaching these children so that it can stay and it can remain.
Yeah, but we also, I did most of the orchestration for this song, but I also take a lot of input from Giancarlo and from him too. It's from Frank and from Miguel. We have conversations.
Yeah,
we do try to encourage them to come up, to be creative, because we cannot do it all ourselves, and we know that they're young and they have a lot to offer.
You mentioned Giancarlo, who's playing cello. Why don't you introduce the members of the orchestra you have here now?
So we have Giancarlo. Maybe you can talk to the mic.
Hi.
Well, how old are you now, Giancarlo?
I'm 19. I go to Miami-Dade College in Wolfson campus.
And you're not Are you Peruvian?
No, I'm Dominican.
But you like Andean music.
Pretty much. We can say right now that I'm half Peruvian, half Dominican.
Okay.
Because I went over to Peru to teach music about 2 summers ago.
No, this summer, Giancarlo.
Really?
Yeah, it was this summer. He yeah. We also realized that Giancarlo's actually studying music now. He ended up studying music, and it's great. Like, I think he had lost his way a little bit and then he found it back by joining our group, our children's orchestra.
Wait. So, Giancarlo, what do you mean you lost? Did you lose interest in music?
For a while, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I didn't really focus on studying music because I didn't think I could make a living off of it, or that I wouldn't be able to support myself. But after coming back and realizing all the opportunities I have and all the different types of music that I was able to play and all my experiences, I just said I love this so much that it doesn't. As long as I keep on doing what I love, life is going to work out somehow.
Well, I don't associate a cello with Peruvian music. Was it difficult for you to incorporate it in?
Yeah, most definitely, because I like to say violins, cellos, violas usually start off with classical music. So going from a classical music, and you have set regulations and rules that you need to follow, then going to a Peruvian, which is a different style, different rhythms, you have to imagine the dances and incorporate the dances into your music. That was really crazy, but it was worth it because Kuyayky, I stayed with them and they stayed with me, and they taught me how it should be played, the dances and all that. It was amazing.
How did you meet Kuyayky?
Well, it was
actually, we met him through Frank, right?
Oh, well, you introduced Frank. Who's Frank?
Frank.
Talk to this
mic.
What's it called? Yeah, my name is Frank. I'm 16 years old. So yeah, actually, me and Giancarlo used to be in a band before. It was called American Orchestra Children for Peace. So me and him, and I have an older brother and an older sister. Me and him, we used to play in the orchestra, right? Since we were young, about 8 years old, right? I would say. So, and then ever since that, I joined Kuyayky when I was 10 years old. So I've been playing with them for 6 years. And then, so when I joined the band, I knew a cello guy, which was Giancarlo's. And then I was like, oh, why not invite Giancarlo's? Because he's just like a talented cello player. So ever since I invited him, the first day I already knew off the bat that he really liked Andean music and folk music that we played. And ever since that day, we just kept on playing throughout the years, and it was a wonderful experience through all of us.
Are you Andean?
No, well, I'm my mom is from Peru, my dad's from Colombia.
Okay.
And I was born here, yeah, so yeah.
And you chose the mandolin. Was that your choosing?
Yeah, well, this is a background story about this. I remember I wanted to play piano, and then their dad, Jose Hurtado, he was playing this instrument. I didn't know the name back then, and he was playing it, and I liked it, and it looked kind of it was hard. Like he was playing it right, and it looked hard to me to understand how to play the instrument. So I was like, oh, I want to learn that instrument because I never seen that instrument before either.
What did you play? The piano? Was it the piano you played?
Yeah, I played piano.
I see.
And then afterwards, ever since he played the mandolin, it triggered me, so I just wanted to learn, and I liked it ever since then.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And maybe now we can go to like Miguel, and I can go backstory. We know Kuyayky Sanchez. He's a very Peruvian piano player, and through jazz player, and we collaborated some. We played with him some years ago, and then through him I met Nicole Yarlin. You probably know her,
the violin player. Sure.
And then we did jazz. What's that called? Jazz
fusion with Andean and jazz.
From the other public radio.
Okay.
And then we met Miguel. He was like a little kid playing Peruvian. He came on and started playing the box, and we're like, who's this kid? And my sister invited him, like, why don't you come over and like play for one of our yearly concerts that you've been to?
Well, you did one last weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So and he came, and since he saw other kids, because they were a lot more back then, so he's been with us. So maybe he can tell you more about that.
Sure. Okay. Tell me.
And no, maybe he's not gonna say, but he has played with like very important people in the jazz scene. So yeah.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Miguel. I'm 15 years old. I go to Dillard Center for the Arts in Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, I play the cajon here.
How did you start playing drums?
I've been playing drums like all my life. Like my father is the first one who really like exposed me to drums. He just had some drums just laying around the house. And I guess I just saw him and started banging on him.
and how did you get involved with Kuyayky?
Like he said, we were at a radio station.
Okay.
And it was like a jam session.
Is that different? Were the rhythms different for you, or was it easy to pick up?
It was easy to pick up because I've been exposed to like world music and just international music in general, especially Peruvian music, since I was like very young. So I kind of was able to like just hear stuff out. So whatever they would play, I would just kind of like play what I feel.
He does a lot of research.
You do a lot of research as well. So I assume you're going to be a musician when you grow up.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's all I want to do.
Is there a particular kind of music that you go toward, or are you open to every kind of music?
I'm really open to anything, but what I really want to do, my main focus is like jazz music. But I'm open to like anything, to infusing like jazz with like other world music or just anything. I'm open minded.
That's Miguel. He's playing percussion with the Kuyayky Youth Orchestra. So Candy, why have you not been able to get any new young kids in the band?
Well, I think it's because we have a special project. We are not. We love. I just went to my niece's Christmas show, and I think a lot of culturally here, and I think a little bit everywhere through Western culture, now we're exposed to joining bands and joining orchestras, just so you can kind of sit there and watch your kid and say, oh, how cute. And I think we want to always go beyond that. We want to push them, we want to challenge them, we want to make sure that they can play well, and that they can, like Jose and Marilu said, that they can eventually like express themselves, and I think that takes a lot of commitment. from the parents, also from the kids. But I like that we expect that. And in Jauja, it's the same thing. We don't expect all of them to become musicians necessarily, but we believe that this, soul searching, everything, this development that goes through really makes an impact in them as individuals. And we're pro that. So if anybody out there wants to join us and they want to do that, we're there.
Maybe one of the reasons is because my dad always like criticizing us when he got back, because he's like has 100 kids in Peru, and he's like, "What are you guys doing? It's like down to 5." But it's quality over it, like. No, and also I think I've been kind of like also doing a lot of training myself, so that I can give those that come after more. So, and also like as far as orchestration, that's what I've been trying like to do. Like,
it's also so difficult to keep a family band together because you all have your own professional lives.
Yes.
Has one of you children taken the responsibility to make sure the band stays alive?
I think myself, yeah. I'm the youngest, so I just gotta.
Do you mind it, or is it?
I mostly don't mind it, and I like I said, for us, we believe in the Ayllu, which is in the Andes, we don't believe in the individual, but in the community and the family as a community. And so for me, these kids right here, they're all part of that family. So it's about growing that and, just putting all of your interest, all of your dedication into that.
I'm speaking with Kuyayky and the Kuyayky Youth Orchestra, who's here in the WLRN studio. My name is Michael Stock, here every Sunday on Folk and Acoustic Music. I'm going to do 2 more songs, but let's have one more song and then we'll take a little break for the top of the hour.
Yep.
What are we going to do here?
Yes, okay, so we're going to have my mom.
Your mom?
Finally.
All right. Edda is your mom?
My mom is Edda, yes.
Hi, Edda.
Hello, how are you?
How come I've never heard you sing before?
Yeah.
She's too famous for us.
At my birth.
Okay, well, I appreciate you coming in. You're not nervous, are you?
I am a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Do you sing in concert with the band?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Okay.
Yes. When the first time that we seriously made them play with us was when we went to the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian.
When was that?
That was, I think, in the summer of 2008.
Okay.
We played their headline concert.
So you're doing a pretty good job there, Candy. I can't believe it.
You have to try. I think we have a lot to give, and all we need from the community is just a response. That's all we require. But the giving is there, and we're gonna give it.
So what song is this?
This is like I was explaining a little bit before, this is a mulisa. This is a mulisa style from Jauja. There's 2 parts, the Yaraví. They also called it a sad song, a triste. And that's India Bella. And then the mulisa itself was composed by my mother and her sister back in the late 80s. It won a national contest in Peru for songwriters. They didn't get to sing it because they weren't that famous, so they had a famous pop singer sing the song. And so my mom and her sister, they recorded this. It's been recorded over time with pop groups.
Now, do they know who wrote it?
They do not. And when I see, if anybody tries to research it, like on the YouTube comments on kinds of things, I see that they go back to the singers that sang it at the contest, but they don't give them due credit. So this is also why I want to make sure she sings.
So you have your work cut out for you.
Yeah,
there.
so this is India Bella and the song Ven Amor, which is a song, because it was created in the time of terrorism, it's a song against terror and embracing love in its deepest sense. So Ven Amor and India Bella.
Here's Kuyayky.
Mato en cuña florido y en secreto y dulce cuida. Vámonos a la montaña. Vámonos a la montaña. Haremos una cabaña llena de años de querida. Tocaremos nuestra quena hasta que darnos dormido, hasta que darnos dormido. De haremos un nido, buscando flores y nido, y en la noche siempre unido tocaremos nuestras penas hasta que darnos dormido, hasta que darnos dormido. Tanto te llamo y tú no vienes, amor. Tanto te busco y solo encuentro dolor. ¿A dónde te fuiste? ¿Dónde estás? ¿A dónde te fuiste? ¿Dónde estás? Solo. Miseria, cansancio, dolor y tristeza, el terror nos va matando, el terror nos va matando. Ay, 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 no nos faltes amor. Ay, 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 no nos faltes amor. dar la vida para ser felices. Si nos das la vida para ser
Live in the WLRN studio, Kuyayky. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your music with us. That was great. We're going to take a small break here and find out more about the future of Kuyayky. This is Folk and Acoustic Music. My name is Michael Stock here every Sunday on 91.3 WLRN and HD1 Miami Fort Lauderdale, 91.5 WKWM and HD1 Marathon Key West, 90.7 WFLV HD2 West Palm Beach, 101.9 NPR for the Palm Beaches. We'll return right after these messages.
Where does Edward?
And we're back at Folk and Acoustic Music. My name is Michael Stock with Kuyayky in the studio. And what's up next? What do you have planned? Oops, let me turn your mic. That would help. Okay.
Now? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have planned a lot of things. We are still playing. We just came back also from a concert we did at OSU, Ohio State University. We also went with them. It was an exchange we did with Korean musicians of also some very traditional forms of music. We thought our songs were long, and they told us one of their songs was 8 hours long. And ours, we were worrying about our 12-minute song, and there we were told something else. So, we're still very much working on that, and we're all, as well working individually on our own projects. Jose just finished his PhD in computer science.
Oh, good for you. And your guitar playing sounds great, too. So...
No, and we also we're starting to podcast. We created our first episode, although it's in Spanish, but hopefully we're gonna
a music podcast.
No, yeah, it's music
related.
It's
dedicated to Andean music and culture. And Ruby, who's worked many years in media here in with Hispanic media, both radio and TV, she decided with Jose that it was finally time to do it. They retook. We had a radio program when I was about 4 years old. So they retook that, and it's the following episode back from 1988. So it's exciting. But we have the Kuyayky Foundation, which we wanted to, Ruby on the phone, she's in Atlanta right now, and she was telling me to remind everybody with the whole tax plan overhaul, there's, you can get, if you donate, we're a 501c3 organization, so you have until the 31st for your donations to make a bigger impact on your taxes.
And so what do you do with the money?
Okay, so we have this project here. We have many different projects to bring forth Andean culture to new publics, and we have the Kuyayky Children's Orchestra in Jauja. We have, like we said, 91 children there. It's completely self-funded. We ourselves teach. We ourselves bring the instruments. We also have a couple of people helping us out over in Jauja, so we give them stipends. We have to buy instruments. It's so much.
Let me ask you quick about Jauja? What's the name of the tune?
Jauja. Yes, good. It's a town. It's actually the first Spanish capital of Peru. It was only the case for less than a year because they moved to Lima right away. They realized they needed a port city for them to be able to do all that.
So your father is there now organizing the Kuyayky Children's Orchestra in Jauja.
In Jauja. Jauja is a small town. It's 11,200 feet above sea level. It's high in the Andes. It's a town that we didn't have we don't have a music school. We don't have an art school.
So the kids in the Andes didn't know the music of the Andes.
Exactly. Interestingly enough, because of everything, globalization and all of those things and poverty, we had lost a lot of our traditions. So yes, we teach them our music. We orchestrated, and I actually, if Giancarlo could say a couple of words, like he said, we took him back this summer in I think it was August, all of August or all of July.
Giancarlo, was that your first time there?
No, it was my second time there. The first time it was with the whole gang.
When we initiated the orchestra in Jauja, we took them to make a bigger impact.
So had it changed since the second time you were there?
Yeah, thank God, conditions were a bit better, but not really much of a difference from how I was there last summer.
So you were surprised when the first time you were there?
Yeah, well, yeah, actually I was. It was kind of similar because I grew up for a little bit in Los Campesinos, which is where the farmers work in Dominican Republic. So seeing that in Jauja was it was a similar situation where at the time there was barely little to no electricity available for the people. It was just really crazy. Sometimes there would be garbage on the floor, and it was pretty insane. However, it did improve a little bit. However, like I said before, the conditions aren't to where people would like it to be, and where everything is where conditions are livable. And
do you think the music had an impact on that?
Actually, in my opinion, I think the music is kind of it's like a joy, but at the same time an escape from reality. Because there's a lot of most kids, especially most of them don't feel like they have a future for themselves, and they depend on drugs or maybe gang related activities. And one of our missions there is to show children that music is a way for them. They don't have to go to all that unnecessary things that won't help them, but they can go to music and depend on music, and they can actually they can bring joy to the people around them in their communities, in themselves, in their families, and hopefully across in their nation through music.
Yeah, we believe that it's very important for the kids to know who they are first, in order for them to know where they're going. So identity is a big issue, and I think that's one of the things that distinguishes us Kuyayky from other organizations where we emphasize that they need to know their identity. They need to be aware that they are valuable, that they can be exposed themselves to the rest of the world by who they are. So, and that's something that we make sure that the kids here and the kids in Peru know.
So you might say who they are, you mean their family heritage, their roots.
Yes.
That the songs of their grandparents are important. Yeah.
It holds important knowledge, and I think it's not easy. We won't be, and Giancarlo too, we can attest it's not easy. There's so many expenses. Our accountant last year, when I went to do our taxes, he said, "How do you do so much? You barely have anything, in the foundation." And it's just like we've gotten held up by customs in Peru, tens of times because we're taking the violins ourselves. Giancarlo, he donated his hard case at one point so we could take a cello, and before that we didn't have a case for one of the cellos that got donated. So my dad himself, he made a wooden case, and it looked like we were taking a corpse. And so we rely on the goodness of the airline employees that they're having a good day and they let us. But we it's a kind of impact that I think everybody wants to make. You always, when you donate, you don't know where your money's going or how it's gonna go, and I think with us, you can be sure that somehow it's gonna make it.
And it's important also to know that the kids are the ones handling the instruments, and we took most of the instruments, and yet at the end of the day, they're kids, so they don't take care of the bows. So my dad he's like MacGyver, like fixing instruments out of with tape, and they keep on playing with two strings they're playing at a time.
And when we were growing up, we used to have a luthier in Jauja, like a person dedicated to fixing instruments or making instruments. Nowadays we don't, because there's we have lost culture itself.
So is it getting easier or harder in Jauja?
It's an interesting phenomenon because there's so many children. It's one of the places, because it's a small town, but it's a province that has 34 even smaller districts within it. So we are kind of the home to all of the children that want to get an education. But schooling has become a business. It's a profit model. So we have hundreds of children in the town, and there's no real education. I talked to them throughout the summer. I was there for 2 months.
Because we are growing, and my dad can grow. There's to 1,000 kids easy. He's that crazy.
He has 900. He has 100 kids now.
He has
kids, but he could grow it more. He's very enthusiastic, and so it has to do with that too. He's like, yeah, no, you can join us, and we're like, we don't have a violin yet, but he's like, no, I'll make it work. So it has to do with that. So so I guess it's our pains from our own success.
Okay. So how do you find violins for 90 kids, or what is the main instrument that you give to the orchestra?
It's like a Christmas story. I'm like it is like a Christmas one. It was I think 2 years or 3 years ago, and I was with my girlfriend, and they told us, oh, there's this lady that they are going out of business, so they're gonna like liquidate a bunch of instruments, and we're like, let's go. I went like unknowingly, and
not thinking
at the
to
end
purchase anything.
I thought they were really cheap. They were like mainly Chinese made, and they were going out of business. So I bought like 20 violins, of 10 violas, and 5, 6
most
cellos.
of them broken, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them were broken, but it was we got them really cheap. And then now recently we got a donation when we went to OSU from a cello professor. He started collecting instruments, and we just got back on Thursday. We went to Jacksonville because he couldn't make the whole trip from North Carolina. And so
we
it,
have 6 more violins.
It's hard to understand how we're making
that's
it work.
very exciting.
Yeah.
You have enough instruments for your orchestra here in Miami, but not for
Yes,
and it's
but
hard to take them. It's I mean, people think they just give us the instruments, and we're like, how do you think we're gonna make it?
Right.
It's not. It doesn't have wings.
So your dad is incredible, boy.
He's
it's
incredible,
amazing.
and he has been working before we were born. It was always his dream to restart this project. The way we look at it is we see ourselves in each one of those kids. For us, it's not like by any means charity work. For us, it's if I myself hadn't been giving that opportunity through music, I wouldn't be anything. I would be lost. So for us, it's that. It's giving back to whatever we got from the community as a whole.
I don't think it's not even giving back, but it's like you don't want that child in a couple of weeks to scratch your car, because you want to make a difference in his life. So it's also self-interest. I think people look like you're a Mother Teresa. No, it has to do with a lot of self-interest, at least for me.
You mean keeping it safe?
Keeping it safe, and you don't want to be I see the people be filthy rich and have like a giant wall. I want to be exposed to the people.
Okay.
Like it is here. So
I see. Well, so how so it's changed. You've noticed the change in how?
Yes, we just there's to the point that we have a competing orchestra now from
really?
the church, from the Catholic Church. But the thing is that it's not easy to replicate because my dad, the method of teaching that my father has, he literally, like when we got to Peru the first time, right after the auditions, we held auditions in about August, and then they started practicing in January. We got there in February. We got there in June, and they could play all of the same songs that we had been working on with these kids for 4 years. And they were surprised. They were like, oh, we're going to show them, And when we got there, they showed us. And
why? How is it? Do they have...
I guess they can speak to it a little bit. Maybe Frank, there was a mandolin player who started with my dad. And we had Frank mic'd up, and Frank said... you should mic him up because he's just as good or better than I am, right, Frank?
Yeah, I know that. What's it called? When I remember when we went to Jauja with the group, I was surprised because when we first arrived, it was in a library room because we arrived in Jauja, right, the town. We got off the bus, and the next day we went inside a library where all the orchestra kids are at. And then it surprised me because right when we came, the kids started playing one of our music or one of the songs that we play, and that took us months, right? And they got it like under 2 months or probably even a month. That I don't even know, but
that's great.
And they started playing it. It was amazing. I was shocked.
But we do need help. I mean, my dad with all his abilities, he can get them to a point, but we want the kids to keep growing,
right,
and get better.
With Ruby's husband, who was also here, Freddy Fuertes, who's a trumpetist, and we were here before with you, Michael, with a trumpet project that he had. He helped us, and he took his friend, who's a violinist for the Peruvian National Symphony, and when he asked these kids, "Have you ever heard a violinist play?" None of them had even heard. Had even thought the amount of exposure that those kids have is null, and it's things that we couldn't even fathom here in the United States.
Well, they have yet to hear a viola. So if anybody is a viola player and you want to go to Peru and take a trip.
How do you keep the tradition alive when a violin isn't even a traditional instrument?
Well, actually, the violin, like the fiddle in folk music here, is in many ways a traditional instrument because the lack of frets and the ability that it gives you to go beyond, the scale, the Western scale, we have adopted it for hundreds of years. So the violin is very much just like the mandolin. The cello, that would be very recent, but definitely the violin, like the fiddle, it's a Peruvian fiddle style that we have.
And I think of the charango as being a traditional instrument. Is what Mina's playing?
Yes, we have Yina, and actually it was difficult for us also to get like good charangos to Jauja because a lot of what they manufacture is for tourists, so they are not made for anybody who wants to take it seriously, and if they are very expensive. So we have had issues finding the right kind of drums because they also have drums mostly for play or for tourists. They don't manufacture the right drums anymore. The same with cajons, we had to bring them in from the city, and so there's a lot of different logistics that we deal with.
I'm glad to say that when I first met the band Kuyayky, the charango was made out of armadillo. So I'm glad that phase is past. We don't need the armadillos anymore.
Well, we were talking to he also came on your show, Federico Tarazona, the master charango player, and he gave Yina the contact so we could get the Peruvian style of charango, and which is what she has, which is like a small little guitar.
It looks more like a ukulele these days than a charango.
Yes, but much more expensive. We will also disclose that.
So how can we find out more information about what you're doing?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook. It's we are under, if you go facebook.com/Kuyayky Music. I'll spell Kuyayky. Hopefully it sticks. It's all K's and all Y's. It's Kuyayky.
And what does that mean?
It means I love you.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
It's nice to remember too. So you get to learn and you get to help us out. It's all good, but it's not a corny love like Jose said. It's about the deeper love, the solidarity, the loving each other in the community.
And what language is that?
It's in Quechua.
I see. That's the native language to
right. It's the native language to a lot of the Andes. It's one of the few native languages in the world that actually gains more speakers day by day. So we're a culture that's very much alive. We just need a little bit of support.
You mean there's a lot of new births in the Andes?
Yes, there's new births in the Andes too, but there's been a push, a more recent push to revindicate the language. It's always been an official language of Peru, but it has suffered a lot of discrimination, and lately linguists and everybody has been working together to make sure that that they institute things like bilingual education and things like that.
Boy, you certainly got your work cut out for you here.
Yes, we do.
Kuyayky is here again. That's Kuyayky. Kuyayky.
Yes,
and what would you like to finish up with here?
What was it that we're gonna do another song that we composed.
Well, let me ask you one last question before you do the last song, because you said you do contemporary Andean music.
Yes.
And is that?
No, we never actually. Who said?
What is that?
Maybe it was you, Michael. Maybe it was Miguel. Let's blame it. No, what the interesting thing about music, and I think all folk musicians can attest to that, and we should acknowledge that, is that it's not something that we should keep in a museum. It's something that's just always developing, and it's part of. It shows how creative we as a people are, whether it be us as Americans or us as Peruvians and because it's not a museum piece, it always has to evolve and it always has to continue being created. And I think that's what we espouse. We want to continue to research, we want to continue to play things, but we also want to be free enough to be able to keep building it and keep making it great.
So there's nobody complaining that the old stuff is dying?
No, there are insane. Yeah, there are so many people complaining that the old stuff is dying. But we want to make sure that music is a reflection of people, and we can't tell people, oh, you should be a certain way, you should stay a certain way. We should respect and we should give enough to people so that they can continue being who they are and creating new things.
Very good. Okay, Kuyayky is here in the studio with the Kuyayky Youth Orchestra, and what are we going to finish up with?
We're gonna finish up with a song that we're calling for now Kunan Ruwaskayki. It came out as a collaboration with a punk, I think a punk ska band. I'm so sorry if I'm
That sounds like
misnaming them.
Jose's
Yes, friends.
Cultura.
Yeah, the great Friends of As Cultura, and
they're a local band.
Yes, and
Okay.
they were they wanted to create a project around the environmental issues. And in Peru, we had a great fighter, Maxima Acuña, in Cajamarca, and she is one woman fighting against a big corporation who wants to destroy her lake to put a mine there, and they keep harassing her. They gave her an environmental prize lately, and she is by herself. Basically, the government of Peru is also not supporting her. And when she went up to receive her prize, she sang.
Well, it seems there's a lot of political strife in Latin America. Doesn't this
Yes.
cause trouble if you have a singer who fights the establishment?
Definitely. It's but it's what it's the only way we have to fight. And our music, our dances, our cultures are who we are, and that's how we express ourselves best. But there is, colonialism, all of that thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, forget about it. It was 500 years ago," but it's happening every single day. It's happening every single day. Indigenous peoples are not recognized in Peru for the large part, because they expect us again to dress a certain way, act a certain way in order for them to be able to call us indigenous, and that's not the case. So we are alive. We're very much there. We still speak our languages. We still sing our music, and she's one of those figures, and she's still fighting out there.
And she's still safe.
She's still fighting out there. Human Rights Watch and all other groups are watching out for her.
Very good.
But she's still getting harassed. Like a couple weeks ago, it happened again. So in memory of her and so many others across.
Is she still
the
alive?
land.
Well, you said
Yes,
in
she
memory
is.
of
She
her.
is.
So
No. But I mean in tribute
in
of
respect,
her. Yes.
in respect of her. Okay.
So it's to those, all of those, water protectors out there. We had, I think their song was dedicated more to the water protectors here. But like I said, it's a global struggle.
Great.
So based on that, Kunan Ruwaskayki. Thank you so
There's
much.
Kuyayky.
Chairuna, imaray kukolke kanyo pakta kausa chismanta. Imaray kukolke kanyo pakta kausa chismanta. Manamuna nichu, manamuna nichu. Chairuna, imaray kukolke kanyo pakta kausa chismanta. Imaray kukolke kanyo pakta kausa chismanta. Manamuna nichu, manamuna nichu. Mañana ya será muy triste, mañana ya será muy triste, porque cuenta no te diste, porque cuenta no te diste,
por mis hijos y por los tuyos, por mis hijos y por los tuyos, yo ya no callaré, en la agüita yo cuidaré.
Mañana ya será muy triste, mañana ya será muy triste, porque cuenta no te diste, porque cuenta no te diste. Por todos los niños del mundo, por todos los niños del mundo, yo ya no callaré, y en la agüita yo cuidaré.
Chai charuna, imaray kukol ke kanya bakta kausan chismanta, imaray kukol ke kanya bakta kausan chismanta, manamuna nichu, manamuna nichu. Chai charuna, imaray kukol ke kanya bakta kausan chismanta, imaray kukol ke kanya bakta kausan chismanta, manamuna nichu. Manamuna nichu.
Pajarita Kausaniki Kunan ruas Kuyayky Kunan ruas Kuyayky Kunan ruas Kuyayky, kunan ruas Kuyayky.
Live in the WLRN studio, Kuyayky and the Kuyayky Youth Orchestra. Well, that was just absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And again, the website for information?
Yes, you can find us at kuyayky.org. Kuyayky.com, I also think, goes to that .org, so you can also find us there. We're on Facebook, Kuyayky Music. We are on Instagram and
Kuyayky
Twitter as well.
FND.
And that's Kuyayky.
Yes.
Kuyayky.
I wanted to say one last thing. I wanted to make a calling for all those musicians, professional musicians that want to have an experience in Peru. We can help them out, and we really need them for them to be exposed to the kids and to the culture in Peru, and for the kids to be exposed to professional musicians.
Thank you, Mary Luz. And thank you, everybody here in the studio. Appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the next time you come back. Thank you. Thank you so much. Here's Emma's Revolution.
Stories of a Savior's Son, poor rejected Holy One, bringing joy to